Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us the very last day of May for our special topic board meeting. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. We're getting a nice early start, actually 5:04 to be exact. Getting a nice early start tonight. So hopefully we'll have a fairly straightforward agenda tonight. Our agenda is as follows. We will do our public comment, as we always do. For those of you who need to look in board docs, everything's up there in board docs. It's part of our agenda. And then we will head right to our special topic, which is the primary class and building expansion options. And we will hear administration present some options. We as a board will discuss those options, and I do believe we intend to vote on said options tonight. So, and that is our primary topic. I do want us to spend just a few minutes on upcoming meetings, if we could, at the end of the time, if we have a little time remaining, just to plan with summer coming up. So, sound okay? Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So what we will do is, as we typically have done with our Zoom meetings, is if anyone has public comment, please add your name in the chat. And we will allow you to share public comment for up to 3 minutes. I believe this is our planned period for public comment tonight, correct? We are not planning any other periods for public comment.
I don't think so.
Okay. So this is your moment for public comment.
I guess this is public comment, you said?
Yeah.
So I guess I'll say something. So thank you for having an emergency meeting and for having it open. Kind of confusing to get here. But I didn't get a chance to look at the agenda, but I did go to the finance committee meeting. And I know that there were 2 options talking on the finance committee meeting. And I just wanted to say, as the public, it was really exciting to hear the conversation that was happening, and especially about potential of like portables, so that way we didn't have to use existing space in the main campus building. So that's just what I wanted to say as far as public comment. You know, it was really exciting to hear the conversation about portables, and was really in favor of that if it does come to a possibility. So, and that was it. So thank you.
Oops.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not today. Christy, if you want to go ahead and take a few minutes and say anything, go ahead and use this time now, knowing that it's in regards to discussion about options for the primary buildings and facilities. So I know you were in the finance committee too, so go ahead and share.
Sure. I just wanted to, I guess, hear what's been done since the finance committee regarding investigating if purchasing a portable versus leasing a portable was explored, and kind of hearing how that went before, I guess, really sharing any comments. So hopefully we'll be able to get through that. Thanks.
Absolutely. And this is the first time the board as a whole is hearing this too. So, except for those that are in the finance committee or myself working with Patrice. So.
Okay, thanks.
Plenty to hear tonight.
Cool. Thanks, Christy. Anybody else? Okay. Going once. Going twice. And closed third time. And thanks for pointing out the Finance Committee meeting minutes. Just a quick note for this group. The committee meeting minutes are now being posted on board docs for ease of accessibility. So you could view those if you wish at any time. So just a quick reminder of that. So, all right, we will head over to our topic. So I assume I'm kicking it over to you, Patrice.
Yes. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. And as was been mentioned, we did have some discussion in the Finance Committee meeting, and we've, been busy the last couple days on top of, having Memorial Day weekend and holiday. So, but we feel like we have a good information that we can present to the board for a vote tonight. The portables, as we have talked about before, Stacy and I did reach out to Mike Roomer with the city of Ocoee, and we were pleasantly surprised by the fact that he was receiving that. Of course, he's just one part. He's a member of the staff there, but he is an important member of the staff there for making sure that we have the things that we would need to get final approval. And he even suggested that we get a 7-year permit. So that was all good news. And then as we've been figuring this all out, one of the things that we have come up against, is finding companies that actually have inventory and who actually serve this area and who are not only have inventory, but are ready to move. So we have found that a lot of these companies, well, there's 3 companies that seem to have been, all have collapsed into one company. And it seems like they have the bigger part of the monopoly of modulars in this area. They're the same group that our W&J construction company also worked with. I did reach out to Building Hope to find out some information from him as well about any other companies that he knows of. So it always comes back to Mobile Modular. And so these are the quotes that we have gotten from Mobile Modular. So first off, before we get to the portables, I do want to point out again that we do have the option 1 for renovating the classrooms. And that would mean not bringing any portables into the spaces. We do have classrooms that we would pick out for those bathrooms to be in there. Each classroom is on either side of the outdoor handicap accessible bathroom. And the plan would be that we would add a bathroom in those classrooms that would also provide an entrance door from those classrooms into that handicap accessible bathroom. So that was the plan that we did present to you, and I've given you a cost sheet with that as well. Just let me know and I can refer to that. I'm just trying to go back and forth between 2 documents. So if we did do just straight the classroom spaces at IMO, it would relocate some offices. But again, I just want to remind everyone that in 24-25, middle school would be moving out of those top classrooms upstairs, those 4 classrooms. And so therefore our space is immediately alleviated. So that would be a 1 year just holding the primary classrooms in those spaces. The other 3
Hey,
options,
Patrice?
which is actually, yeah.
I'm sorry, have you picked out, have you identified the classrooms, or that's still in flux?
No. They're the ones that are each side of the outdoor classroom. So I'm going to forget which one. One is the music room and the other one is the business office. And Kathy and Jared, you can verify that for me.
And would that mean we would not have a music room for a year?
Yes, so it would mean that we would relocate music.
Do you have a place you can relocate them to for next year in the business office too?
Yeah, I mean, we would, do what we did during COVID. We would, probably have to take over our conference room for business office. We'd have to refigure out what we would do in the NPR. So we would just have to do what we've done before.
Okay.
It'd be tight, but it is possible to do that.
So it wouldn't mean that we wouldn't have music. It would just be like moved around.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Kathy, I don't know if you heard that too. You can verify, because I know Kathy, you've been making those plans as well.
Sorry, I'm here nodding and my camera is turned off.
And I think you're getting, yeah, you're getting reverberations between, I guess, you and Jared.
Yeah.
So then the other options would be bringing
I'm going
portables
volume off
onto the
and
space.
muted.
I think you are, yeah, there you go. So the other options would be bringing portables onto the space. And the space we are specifically talking about is the space directly behind the primary building. The company has come out, they have looked at the site. They haven't been able to bring their general contractor out. He was supposed to come out late last week, and then that fell apart. So he's supposed to be coming out very soon. So we're still waiting for the general contractor to come out, but he feels pretty confident that we know we've had portables there before. We're just shifting them a little bit because they'll be a little bit farther towards the back of the fence along where the primary building is. So there would be an easy access to a sidewalk that would provide easy access to the primary building and to the playground. In the first instance, what we have is a 5-year lease, and we would have to negotiate the cost after the 5 years. It does mean that we'll have to pay a substantial amount of funds each year, with the convenience of access to primary building for drop off, for pickup, everything else that would be connected to the primary building. So in the playground would also be easy access, and that of course is another, big priority. Option 2 for the portables, Philip had asked us in the finance committee if we might consider looking, if we could look at a 1-year lease, and after that 1 year, consider at that point in time, do we want to then invest in the bathroom renovations, which would then, that would be more money, but we would be putting the money into the lease anyway. So we could, after 1 year, be looking at investing in those renovations of those bathrooms. So it would give us a year to really think about what the best long-term option is for these primary students. So I have given you a quote for a 1 lease as well. And I'll get into the differences between these quotes that I put on the spreadsheet in just a minute. And then option 4 and 5, Stacy and I were a little bit more optimistic about this. Couldn't believe then these costs came in. Jared had received a previous quote from the same modular company for a totally different situation outside of the school for about $98,000 for used portables. So that is on the table as well. So that would be, $98,000 times 2. We were told that they would honor that same quote because, again, this is the same quote for the same company. The cost for new portables, and I made sure that says $180,000 each. So that would be the cost for new portables, would be $180,000, $360,000 for new ones. And the problem is, which is a little bit confusing when you're talking with them, but it's the best information I've been able to get from them, is that they have inventory that they lease, and then which these ones that they're going to lease to us are brand new. So one of the things I said to them, well, can we just buy? But it's a different inventory group. So for inventory for any new portables, they say that probably the earliest they could get that would be fall. And when I pushed them a little bit, it sounded more like maybe October before that would be fine, before those would be available. And that also goes with used portables, mostly because what he kept saying was that they just don't know what they're going to have coming back in.
How old are the used ones?
I'm
Do they
not
know?
sure, Jared. I felt like they were about 5 years old.
Because I didn't know if you did a 1-year lease, would they give you a 1-year lease with an option to purchase at the end of 1 year?
You know, it's funny because when
Now that it's technically used, right?
I know,
Yeah.
I know, because the problem is that they do seem to quote their inventory separately.
Yeah.
So they have inventory that they're only using for leasing, and then they have inventory that you can use for purchase. Because I did ask them that, Brett, you know, earlier. I can push
I
back.
would assume if we did a 1-year lease, once it's on property and we've done all the work, we'd probably have some ability to negotiate with them on just buying it outright. Like, I'm sure they wouldn't want to come take it away and bring a different one to sell us a different one.
Right.
But I don't know.
Well,
No.
I don't know,
I-
though. They're getting money regardless. And
Yeah.
we have to pay all of those transition fees. So I don't really see an incentive for them to negotiate when we are going to have to pay for those costs of transition. That's not part of that. That's kind of coming out of their pocket. So
No, but it's pretty straightforward for them to negotiate a sale. Like, you know,
yeah, it would,
I would think that, I think there's probably an opportunity there, is all I'm saying. You know,
yeah, I hope so.
the used purchase seems like the most cost effective of the portable options
Mhm.
over a 5-year period.
Over a 5-year period.
Right. Because if I look at your 5-year lease option, and that's what I was trying to, I mean, I think I've done the math here right. 55, they're $58,000 annual cost. That's times 5 years. So the real cost for that's about $300,000
Right.
over 5 years.
Right.
And the used purchase is 272,000 versus a new purchase, which was about 435,000.
Right. Well, and then with
This is a
everything,
cost to renovate IMO of 60,000.
right.
So, I mean, the portable options seem like great ideas, but they're exponentially,
More.
5 and 6 times, 7 times more expensive than renovating the space that we've got at IMO.
Mhm.
And so for us, one of the things that we, you know, because we totally understand that it's a lot of money to put out annually. We do recognize at the same time, it is functionally a lot better it's a better solution. I was intrigued when Philip brought it up to maybe consider a 1-year lease. And then maybe at that point in time, we'll understand more about what the finances will be in the next, 2 or 3 years. And we'll be able to make a decision if that's the best, use, or better to go ahead and just renovate the bathrooms.
So
Well, and like
the
Brett said,
difference-
maybe we have the option to purchase those at that stage too. Like maybe that would be an open door too.
I mean, I think the cost between the 1 year and the 5-year was only about $7,000 more for the 1 year, right? Like it's not,
Right.
it's not dramatically different at all. So, I think that's a good option to have.
Could we just, for the purposes of everybody understanding the financial sheet, just state what those numbers are? Kind of just
Yeah.
the options.
So the renovation of IMO space, that total cost is $61,900, and that has to do with renovation costs, design fees, and permit fees. So for leasing the portables, just so everybody knows, whether or not we lease or we buy, we're still going to have permit fees. Now, I put in this as a guesstimate because nobody would give us an idea of how much it costs. So I just figured, okay, if renovation fees cost us $5,000, maybe the permit fees are going to be a couple thousand more. The other thing that we also guesstimated with portables, and these are the fees that we would put out this year. With any portables, we have to pay for site fees, which includes grading the property, electrical. Luckily, we have our panel, so we don't have to purchase a panel. We have to put electrical connection as well as plumbing connections. And there may be a few other things that we have to do as well. Oh, that would also include, we're hoping that would also include the sidewalk and any other railing and things like that we have to do. So that we are estimating, and what we did is we built this off of, because he hasn't had his general contractor out there yet to really give us a hard fee in this. We asked Justin from Building Hope to give us the cost that we had from our previous modulars. And Jared went in and kind of did an estimate based on when we had 6 portables and a bathroom, what those costs were for site work. So the site work right now is 60,000 that I'm putting in. Again, these would be the costs. 7,000, 60,000 would be the cost that we have to do this year, as well as the 17,000. And I think one thing I didn't do one-time cost. I think I didn't include the 7,000 in the permitting, so I'd have to update those. That one where I said the one-time cost, that would the one-time cost that I just mentioned would be 77,000 plus 7,000, so it's about 84,000 for one-time cost. I have investigated whether or not we can use our project proceeds if, like Stacy knows, if we have those project proceeds the way we're hoping we will have, we can use project proceeds for these initial costs. It gets very complicated to use them for leasing, but we really don't think we'll have the money to even use project proceeds for that. And that again, of course, is where we're talking about our construction project right now that we have going on, that we're hoping that MAC contracting will come back and we'll save some money. So we're hoping that a lot of these one-time fees will be eaten up for that. And then for the 5-year lease right now, it's an annual cost of $58,400. For a 1-year lease right now, it's $65,700. And then purchasing the used and the purchasing the new, it's a difference between $98,500 for, well, double that, $98,500 for the used portables and $180 for the new portables.
But those costs
Double
are
that.
times 2, right?
Yes, times 2,
Yeah.
times 2, times 2.
I mean, and I think you got to look at the 5-year cost of these, because if we're the 5-year lease, you know, that's really like $375,000.
Yep.
Do we, if we did a 1-year lease and we incurred the one-time cost, which sounds like you just said those could potentially be covered by remaining project funds that we have, but the monthly costs for the portables, is that something we can sustain in our budget operationally next year?
Yes, I did ask Dave to do the worst case scenario and look at the 1-year lease and make sure that we could sustain that. And he did that adjustment. We've been working on budget today. And so he did that adjustment. You know, I'm not going to say it doesn't make things tight, but we're still there. We have a healthy fund balance still. So we're still able to cover that cost.
And would they be willing to do a 1 year with a, an option to extend? So we
By
pay the
like
higher
a time
price
frame or
and then
something, right? Like if we ask for like if we
1
could do it
plus
by a
4.
certain time frame.
Yeah, I think if we were to ask them that, I think that we could figure something out with them. I don't know for sure.
I don't think they'd want to come take it away and lose the revenue either. If we say, hey, we want to extend this 1 year to 5.
One of the questions that had come up, or one of the comments that had come up, was the option to end a lease early if we did the longer one. So depending on the time frame, that could also be something where if you were to. And do you know, Patrice, was that still the option?
No, Philip, because I didn't have enough time. I wanted to really send that to Melissa because when I went through the contract, I didn't read it as easily as we first thought, that it would just be something within 30-day notice. I think within our lease, we have to give them 30-day notice when we're ready to get them out. Because what we know what happened this time, they sat on our property for like 2 or 3 months longer, and they wanted to charge us for that, like 2 months longer. And we were like, oh, no. We notified you based on what our lease said, 30 days behind. So
Another again,
go ahead.
I think that's why like a 1 year plus with an option to extend to 5 years after 1 year would be probably an attractive option.
Yeah, that was what part of where when I looked at this too, I was like, all right, so if we can make the numbers work any of the directions, it's still a lot of money if we've got the space in the building to be using. So I was like, it needs to be a full board conversation where you also think about the only reason really for the portables, I feel the most compelling reason for the portables once we get past 1 year is for the program side of keeping the primary all in a nice contained space. But it's kind of expensive. It's not to say it's not worth it, but it is something to say, hey, look, like even if we make the dollars work, it's kind of pricey, right? We're paying for this extra space over there when we will have multiple classrooms will be being vacated by the middle school. And it's not to say that the main building at IMO isn't using all of their space. Like, just go into the multi-purpose room and see how many different multiple purposes that's used for. That space can be put to good use. But it's not. So if the dollars can work, it's really a matter of, do we want that? And if we want to go through all of that, I don't think that we wouldn't spend $70,000 to get them delivered and prep the site to then only have it for 1 year and then move everybody over to the main campus.
Right.
I think, Brett, if I'm following your thinking, is say, hey, would we do this? And then we would look for a way to maybe get a more affordable option of having that space there. Making the portals be a little bit
what
more
would we do? What would we do with the if we put the portable and then we, after year 2, had the open classrooms at IMO? I assume we'd have an extra classroom versus what we were originally planning. What would we do with that additional space? Is there additional benefit we could get out of that?
The 2-year-old potential classroom too, right? Like you could put a revenue maker in there. I mean, like that's where my brain's going. If you have that space in there and you want to look at it as actually making some revenue for the school, then you put a 2-year-old classroom in there as like a prep, and then we have a feeder for our feeder, right? Versus building a bigger base and then still having to funnel.
Yeah,
that's
when
a
you talk
Kathy
about
question
like your point, Philip, like
on if that's something that we could potentially do.
Yeah, I think to your point, Philip, like 60 grand total cost to renovate, and then we've got the space that we need versus hundreds of thousands of dollars, over the next few years to give us the same space. That's the pretty hard cost benefit analysis to do. Like the convenience factor is fantastic, and I like the idea of the portable. But I think if there's an option to do something with the extra space that provides some additional value, that would be the kind of key for me.
Brett, I do also think that we just have to think programmatically too. I completely understand the cost benefit to having renovations done here. I think the potential for that program, the new additional primary classrooms being successful, certainly will be impacted by its location. Now, do I think I don't have any concern really about us making it work here. I just think that, the consistency of having all that primary stuff over in one spot, I think is worth considering, even though obviously the cost is a lot higher. I think we'll have an easier time filling those classrooms. I think the teachers will feel more connected to the entire primary program. I think again, on the record, we will find ways to have that happen anyway. But
and one of the things that I want to just tell the board, one of the things that we've been made aware of, now we've heard from 3 different people about this, so it seems to be legit, is that there has been something passed called the Senate bill or House Bill 1259, I believe it is. It's about capital outlay for charter schools. What we know that our charter allocation for next year is going to increase. What the language of this is such, I was reading it again today, and I'm still a little bit confused about it. I think a lot of people are. It's there's a couple things about it that it looks like what they're trying to do overall is equalize charter school spending for capital outlay across the districts. But again, like sometimes what happens with these kinds of mandates, it doesn't appear that they're actually funding it from the state. They're simply going back to the district and say, you need to divvy this up, but I'm not totally sure. They may be also funding it. And they have this a step off way that they're doing it over 5 years to increase it. But where it gets tricky is that every district is going to be managing this differently. The one thing that we feel solid about right now, and I'll send you this. I got it when I got the third person to send this to me. Actually, it was our not UMB. Oh my goodness, our bond. The people that we went to for our bond. Oh,
Sorry.
Brett, come on.
See, like
help
our
me out.
bond council.
RBC.
RBC, sorry,
RBC.
not our bond council. But when we got it from Moody's on Friday, and then we also got it from RBC. And so I thought, okay, this seems to be getting everybody's attention. Richard also sent it out to us or told us about it. So there does seem to be some more money coming to charter schools. Not enough to build anything right now, but there may be enough to help sustain, this kind of move for the portables, in the coming years. Just don't know how this is all going to flesh out.
And I hate to ask a detailed question knowing that we don't have the details, but with that caveat, I'm going to do it anyways. Knowing we've always appreciated Orange County sharing their capital proceeds with us prior. I wasn't sure. Looking at that, I was like, did they do that over and above what they were required to by the state?
So
because
they never shared capital. What they shared with us is they shared their tax revenue with us. So that's where they've always been a little bit better than other districts have been. But this is capital outlay, which is
so it will reflect additional dollars for us then at some point. But as with all of these things, we really don't know until we actually start to see it hit, or even when it starts to hit. Yeah.
I'm sending it to you all right now.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here.
Okay. Yep.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I saw that as well, and I wasn't sure,
I know it's I haven't been able to go through it enough to find out exactly what this means, because I wouldn't be surprised if some districts are, not too happy about it, and we know how that goes. So what were you going to say, Brett?
So, my real question is going to be like, do you think we can turn around in the next 60 days the lease and install of a portable to start the school year?
So I don't know about that. And one of the biggest things that happened was that in the middle of all this planning with the modular guy, and when his general contractor couldn't come out, he informed us that his general contractor told him that permitting alone for, the architect for the site plan, that their architect they use for site plans is about 2 months backlogged. So I went, okay.
Yep.
Now, Kathy being Kathy is already working on, we will have to, plan for NPR, how we're going to use that. But I also reached out to Z Development and Bob. He was on holiday on Friday, but he did get back to me, and we are going to talk with him tomorrow at 11 a.m. because since they already did the site plan, we're feeling pretty confident that maybe he can just come in and their architects can just come in, Sarah can come in and plop these portables, back onto the site. It's a little bit different, where it's located, but we're hoping that will be an easy fix. And if we can get that part, then maybe we can even open in August. That's what we're hoping.
So you think there's a contingency that you can come up with if we can't get it there by August?
Oh yeah, us, we've already talked about the contingency. Okay. Yeah.
And hey, just thinking of the site plan too, when they did that site plan, wasn't that also going to require some modifications to the pond?
No, because this is the site plan that they use for the modulars.
But they had done a site plan back to put another primary building there.
Yeah,
that's permeable. This isn't permeable.
Right?
Yeah, but sorry, Stacy, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be if you were to have the permit.
It won't be on a
Mm-mm.
won't be on a concrete pad.
Right.
And we will actually
Okay,
even
yeah,
have
good point.
less,
You're right.
right? And we will actually have
Okay.
less concrete than we did before, because we'll have just running to the
Less
I-
sidewalk.
yeah,
Right.
Less
sidewalk.
portables. Yeah.
Yeah. It should just be able to
Okay.
come out that back door, right, where the slab already is to extend.
Right. And we have the electrical panel. So those are two things that we know last time really took us a long time. So
Yeah.
we're hopeful about those two.
Would we hook into that same electrical panel?
That's what, again, he said that, you know, he will have to have the general contractor come out to verify. But in my mind, if you had 5 portables hooking, I mean, 6 portables hooking into it, now we're only going to have 2.
Yeah.
I can't see that that would be a problem, but we're waiting for them to come out.
Is there a downside in doing the construction on campus that would then be permanent construction, altering those facilities, permanently speaking? Like, so, you know, let's say we do options 1 and options 3 or 4. You know, like if we go ahead and prepare our campus for an option to put those classrooms in there and do the construction for the bathroom, is there any downside of that construction happening for future uses of like it being a music room or a business office because they now have access to a restroom?
No, I mean, it shrinks the room, the music room,
Okay.
you know, it shrinks the music room a little bit, but they're not big, you know, toilet
Right.
stalls. They're small because we don't have to put a handicap one in it because they'll
Yeah.
have access to the handicap. It's really coming up with the money to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time like connecting the dots. I'm sorry if I like wasn't at the finance meeting. So just to kind of backtrack for a second. So I think what we're saying, we expanded our primary going into this next school year. Is that true? And so these portables allow for that excess students?
So we have
So
the
we-
FTE count that we have to meet in order to counteract those students that we're not going to be placing in middle school and high school to fill those spaces. So to
Right.
meet the FTE counts that we need to maintain our financial stability, we have to place students in our school. And the easiest place to do that is at the primary because you're putting it at a lower level, right? Like to provide that big, strong base. I think we've talked about the pyramid before, right? For our students to then process the feeding. So that is the purpose of adding the primary classes versus adding an upper L or something else.
Okay. I wasn't sure that was final. So that's driving this conversation, and then it's advantageous to have the portables because then the accessibility to the primary building is there versus getting them over from the main building. And so I guess
access to their playground and access to car loop and yeah.
Okay. And so
access to staff. And so Marissa, it's not really so much the students, except for the playground, they would be coming over, but they wouldn't so much be going into other classrooms from IMO, but the staff coming over because staff will be, you know, coming back, different staff at primary go through the classrooms. Does that make sense?
yes. Okay. So ultimately, like we need a permanent solution, but I guess what I'm hearing conversation is we trying to figure out in the future if we'll have funds for a permanent structure, and this is just kind of getting us there.
I don't know if this is part of that conversation. I wouldn't go there, you know, just in my estimation, just because Brett and I, and those who've been on this building committee for years, we know that we would have some major issues building on that property right now. Just if you could, like, honestly, the way that this has worked out on Fuller's Cross for even that we didn't build the high school, I think it was the best thing that could have happened to us because the amount of problems we've had with drainage just on that property has really been one of the big reasons why it's been backlogged so much. So Marissa, on the property on IMO, we can only have so much concrete on the property without redoing the entire drainage system we have. And they've estimated that, I think, Brett, they estimated that at like $1 or a little over $1 million.
$1 million. Yeah. $1 million.
So I guess if, like, you know, we're on the path of expanding primary, I mean, are we just gonna have portables forever? I guess that's where I'm kind of like, where are we
And
going with this?
You know, it could be. There's certainly plenty of
7
schools
years or
that
less.
do that. Yeah,
7 years or
Okay.
less, Patrice.
Right, that's true in
Yeah,
terms of the city of Ocoee, but you know, who knows what could happen? I mean, 7 years is a long time in the history of a school.
Yeah,
I'll-
and
Okay.
you know,
I'll
we
say
have
in my
other
mind-
options with like that piece of land potentially that's still sitting up there, you know, in front of us, or, you know, like maybe we would have the ability to expand somewhere else, right? Something else comes down the, on the current property, the way it is, there's not really going to be any more building that takes place on our current property just because of the
Okay.
water issues.
So
I would say there's a lot of change happening right now, right? With middle school and high school growing and middle school moving over there. We're not talking about a permanent solution exactly with where you're thinking about this, right, Marissa? Like what's this look like in 10 years? At the same time, 5 years is a really long time and a lot changes. So in my mind, when I look at this, I'm like, there's a lot that bounces back and forth. I don't think I want to spend $700,000 to buy portables. I'd rather try to build a building, but now the building has complications. We know that's not going to happen in any sort of short amount of time. So then it goes to, next year will definitely be constrained and tight because we're still going to have middle school on the same campus, and we're bringing in new students, needing to bring in new teachers and expand. There's an advantageous reason to put all of that in the same spot so the program can be the tightest, the easiest, the best for the administration side to have it all in one spot. What it looks like in 3 or 5 years, well, I think that kind of goes back to Stacy's side of, hey, let's put the bathrooms there, but maybe we don't need to squeeze it into this summer. We're already out of school. And if we don't have a contractor or plans, all that detail lined up, being able to have those bathrooms in time for first day of school, that's a real challenge. Might be something in my mind. I'm like, if we bring in these portables, maybe we plan on like a 3-year, maybe it's the 5-year, maybe we say, let's just commit to the 5-year. It's a lot of dollars, but when I look at the cost of purchasing, it's actually not as bad. It gives us that time. And then now middle school's gone. We've got that space there. We're able to kind of stabilize in and be in a lot, have a bit more time to say, okay, this is what this would look like if we moved some of our primary students over to main campus, remove the portables, get rid of that more completely. We'll also have a lot better insight. And what do these things look like? Maybe the grant dollars have dried up, but we're actually getting capital dollars in. We'll have multiple years of stable financials to look at. So I say all this to say, I don't feel like we're kicking the hard decisions down the road. It's more of this buys us a good chunk of time, gets some increased stability, and puts us in a spot. So then the next decision that comes along a couple years down the road has more options at play, as well as more insight to where things are at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. And I also, so the cost of the portables is pretty high, but I'm assuming, because I don't see maybe I need to start attending the finance committee, like the offset of, the new increase in the primary FTEs will more than offset like this.
You're right.
cost of
It
the
is high.
portables.
That was part of why when we started looking at this, and I told Teresa, I was like, finance committee can't make this decision. I was like, this needs to go to the board, especially because there's programmatically, I think the portables are better. It puts it next to the primary building. Financially, it's way better to say renovate the bathrooms and put us into the main campus. We've got the rooms, squish it in. And that's why it's the bigger group conversation. The question from the finances that always comes back, one of the grounding anchors I always use is I look to the administration when I say, can you make these numbers work? And if they're like, yeah, no, I can't, well, then let's not even discuss it. Let's do the bathroom renovation and put it on the main campus. But they were like, no, we can make these numbers work. And they're in the position where they're looking at this saying, okay, this gets me one less teacher, or this cost me this, but I would rather have my room here than have that additional teacher. So I
Okay.
rely on their insight more to be on the ground in the moment. When they're going through all the details of budget, they're weighing those things against each other. It's still not an easy decision, though. That's the truth of the matter.
Okay, thank you.
What if, this may have been suggested, but what if we just do the 1 year lease on the portables first to see how everything goes, and then we still have the flexibility to renovate the following year and extend the lease again? Because it's not that much of a cost difference on the 1 year.
Yeah,
Well, we
hard
may
part
not
on-
need the renovation the following year because that's when the middle school will be moving over. So we open up that space the following year. So
The hard part on that, though, is the roughly $75,000 that it costs to get the spot for the portable and get the portable in place. And so if we do just the 1 year, if they stick with the numbers that they have here, we're looking at paying then an additional 15% more on an annual basis, you know, the difference between 59,000 and 66,000. We're paying more every year then because we didn't commit to it, but we still are out that $75,000 to get the portable onto the spot. And
Mhm.
I
It's more of a
don't, and then we're
throwaway
right
cost.
back next summer having to renovate the bathrooms or have this same conversation again. What was that, Brett?
But that's what I said. It's really like a throwaway cost if you don't do more than 1 year. You've got that $70K that you spent to
mhm.
get the portables there and get everything, the site prepared, and then you know if you do a 5 year lease, then if you spread that cost over 5 years, it's much easier to absorb that. But I like the idea of a 1 year with the option to extend it to 5 years, and we can give them notice, hey, either we're going to end it after 1 year or we're going to extend it. Maybe they'll give us a break on the 15% if we put that option in there and say, hey, and there's probably some room to negotiate there.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You could say, hey, I'll pay you the 65,000 for this first year, but if I extend for an additional 4 or an additional 5 years, can I
give me a
lock in that
discount.
59,000 or the 60,000?
Yep.
No, I think that's a good, fair ask.
It seems like conversation wise, we're leaning towards the portables. Am I reading the room right?
Well, I'd want to hear like Patrice and Kathy. I mean, what out of these 4 options, which one's your recommendation? What
So our
works best for you guys
recommendation
operationally?
Yeah, well, the
And financially.
recommendation is the 1 year lease, and it goes back to what AJ and what Brett Phillips said at the finance meeting. But it goes back to that in Brett, what you said too, I hate to call $75,000 throwaway money, but in the grand scheme of how large our budget is right now, it's not as much money, but it operationally, and it may open up other opportunities, next year. So I think Kathy, you agreed?
Yeah.
You're going to be living it.
Absolutely. And I think, talking with the primary team, they too would agree that if at all possible, it would be nice to have primary all corralled in one spot on campus.
Would you want it for 1 year, Kathy, and then to see this again, or would you want to commit to longer?
If it's doable, to have a 1 year lease with the option to maybe negotiate for a reduced lease rate after 1 year, I think that's ideal. It'll depend on what Ross is willing to do with us, I guess.
Well, we can always, push it up, to somebody else if he doesn't want to work that much with it, but we can always, because I think that's a really good, we've been with them, so we're a known entity.
Well, even if we say we will do it by a certain date, right? Like, I feel like, hey, we will do this 1 year, and then we want the option to extend at the reduced rate, and we'll do it by whatever date you need us to commit to by that, and just have that date set. So if they need it early enough to decide if they need to release those or if we're going to keep it, then say, we'll stick to your date, whatever your date is, but we want to have that option to extend at the reduced rate.
And another thing to bear in mind around the bathroom renovation is the fact that it's been really hard to get anyone to respond to any sort of outreach at all around that construction. It's a small job at a time when construction companies are in very high demand. So I would feel much more confident about our ability to execute the portable plan than I would to be around the bathroom plan. as crazy as that sounds.
And you
And I
guys
just
feel
have to-
good about being able to get materials in for those classes on time, like to get all of the required primary
So
materials?
we feel cautiously optimistic, Stacey. I don't doubt for a minute that it'll be lots of fun initially, especially when I project into the possibility of setting up 2 primary classrooms in the multi-purpose room as a contingency.
Mhm.
Listen, we've come from a strip mall. We've done plans B, C, and D and E before, and we will make it the most beautiful multi-purpose primary classrooms you've ever seen. You know, and also I do want to say, because I know there's some concern, the term, the very mention of the word portables strikes a little, there's a creep factor in there, right? When people are talking about portables for schools, I've taught in portables that were absolutely beautiful. And again, I think we can make those portables look every bit as wonderful as any of our classrooms.
And again, he has called out that these are new portables.
Right, yeah, nothing that we remember from the 1980s or 90s.
Yeah, no, it's
In
part of
our high school,
education today. It's
people
part of
loved it
education
last year.
today.
Right.
Yep.
It did.
That's
It
true.
is.
Yeah, and they're all
There's-
very highly environmentally rated and everything, so we feel good about that.
All right, well, I know Brett has to go. How are we feeling about being able to move towards a vote on this? We have couple of the options that Patrice has shared. Option for 1 was renovating. Option 2, it sounds like for portables with a 1-year lease, with the option to extend, part of the discussion there. Is those are too big? Do we have any,
So
And
option 2 was the 5-year lease. Option 3, I apologize. I realize I have 2 option 2s. So option 3 is for the 1-year lease. So I would just call it out as the 1-year lease
okay.
Yeah.
with
Hey,
the
I'm-
option of extending.
Patrice, one quick question regarding the 5-year lease. Is there anything like spelled out with regards to if we were to end that early, like is there a penalty?
Yeah, so that's what we haven't been able to verify that,
Okay.
Jared. So that's
I'm
what I was-
wondering if that penalty is less than the difference between the
Mhm.
you know, the 1-year versus the 5-year, and maybe
Take the hit, yeah.
better for us just to say, okay, we'll do the 5-year, and then if they're going to charge us, I don't know, $5,000 to break the agreement early, that's still saving us a couple $1,000s. So I don't know, just
Mhm.
something else that when we get that information, we might want to think about that as well, if it's not prohibitive.
Yeah. All right, so any further conversation? Is anybody wanting to move towards the renovation at this phase and needs more time on that, or are we all on board to move towards the 1-year lease option for portables?
Yeah, I'm on board with the 1 year. I like the idea of having the option to extend. So, I mean, I would probably make some sort of motion that gives, Patrice or Kathy, whoever the, direction to negotiate.
Yeah.
Whatever the most favorable terms you can get us are, if it's a 1 year with a, option to extend, or it's a 5-year and an option to break, like, you guys figure that out, whatever's the most cost effective, but the opportunity to have a 1 year and then reconsider after that.
Is there any pauses from the group on moving forward with that direction? We'll have to make a motion here in a minute, but go ahead and discuss it first.
I just wanted to comment that to me, it feels like the right move, given everything that's happening with the transition of, middle school forthcoming. I think it just kind of puts us into a flexible space where we have a year to kind of figure through. So I think with all the variables at play, it makes the most sense. So.
I'm fine with it.
Somebody want to, I guess I could potentially do it. Make a motion. Kevin's not here. I don't think Thanks.
Yeah, miss Kevin's diligent wording of this, but
Yeah,
I'd make a
thank
motion
you.
that we, authorize the administration to move forward with negotiating a favorable terms on a 1 year portable lease.
You want to tweak the way you word that, say the 1 year with extension or 5-year with favorable option to break to end.
Yeah, I mean, I would just I mean, maybe we just word it that says, authorize them to move forward with negotiating favorable portable lease terms, right? I don't want to box
I
you
like
guys
that.
in, like, you
Yeah.
guys know what we're asking for.
Right, right.
So, they don't need to get too specific in a motion here, but
Yep.
you know what we're looking for. So, I mean, I motion to authorize the administration to move forward with negotiating favorable portable lease terms for the primary building.
Works. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Philip is seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
You guys are phenomenal. I gotta run. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
5:59.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
We just need to
Right.
pick out dates, but we'll pick them and then you'll just have to come to them.
You guys figure that out and tell me when.
Okay.
I'll take your lead.
And then a big shout out to all the primary staff that's here. Woo!
Oh, we hope to give you guys more
We have
space.
a lot of primary staff here. I'm
They're
impressed.
very, very interested, and I think they'll be
I know.
happy.
Yeah.
It looks like people knew what the agenda topic was going to be. That's
I love it. Good job, Kristen.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he'll just be busily interviewing, so we're ready to fill up those classes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yay, good.
All right, so can we take a few moments to just talk about what's coming next with our
Yeah.
meetings? So we are on for June 13th is our next monthly normal board meeting.
Yeah.
That is planned as sort of a year-end recap. I know we have a few different topics for that. I know we talked about the finance, that we would include the budget. I just want to make sure I capture the agenda items for June 13th. So the budget being proposed, reviewed and voted on June, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. And voted upon, and then a little bit more of a deep dive. I don't know if we want to call it deep dive, but a little bit more, maybe a little bit more meat around finance than we might normally provide.
I think it's going to be tight, Kristen. I mean, I think that when we just look at the finance, because we do take time to really dig into, what the highlights are going to be for next year.
Okay, so in other words, the budget discussion will take up most of the time.
Yeah, I think that will take up.
The budget will probably cover the financial pieces of the main part, right? Because we'll be looking
Okay.
at the whole organization as a total.
Okay.
So
So we'll
it'll
just-
still include financial details, and I
Yeah,
saw your
it will be
comment as well,
finance
right,
focused.
back
It will
then.
be just the budget, yeah. And
Yeah,
I know we said something about, Patrice, I was reading your note about other topics, so I just want to make sure if there was any other.
Yeah, I have we want to, we've always had a process for public record requests.
Yeah.
But Arnold Law Firm did give us an updated policy that I liked, that I sent to everybody to look at that, to
Yep.
consider, voting on that, as well as, trying to remember, I did want to share out, Kevin's not here, but did want to share out some of the work that we've been doing around our manuals. Not that we'll vote on those, but that will be a lot of information just to discuss about that. And there was something else, Kristen, I
You said
apologize.
committees, something about committees, support
Yes.
on that or
Yes,
whatever you
yes.
want to look at with
Yep.
that, okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, and then we're looking at, if we head into July, we've still got that slated as the SAC meeting combined with the board meeting.
Yeah.
Stacy, I know it has to, we need to move that meeting, as I understand it.
Yes.
We also need to look at these, possibly having a planning meeting, maybe during June 12th through the 22nd. I know it's a very specific period, but that is when Heather will be here with us before she has a vacation, before Stacy's out and then I'm out. So I wanted to throw that window out there.
I'm out the weekend of that 17th, 18th, and beyond, so it'd have to be between the 12th and the 15th.
For July or June?
June.
Talking about
Oh,
June.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
So it
back in
has to
July.
be-
But
Between the 11th and the 15th, is that what you said, Philip?
yeah, which isn't that when we already have our board meeting scheduled? Where
We
we're
have it
discussing
on the
budget?
13th scheduled. But we wanted to get a working session in with Heather while she was here before, right? Like to try, did we want to do a weeknight? Let's see here.
I can't, the only day I can't do is the 15th that week. It's my wedding anniversary. We have plans.
Oh, yes, take the day. We have a full agenda on the 13th, so I don't think adding more to that night would, I think my eyes would be glossed
Yeah.
over.
I mean, I don't know if we want to do a double header, but you know, you could go
The 14th.
or the 12th and the 13th. I'm sorry, the 13th and the 14th.
Yeah, the 14th.
Let's see what that day is. Flag Day. What else?
I know, that's what came up on my calendar too.
It's Flag Day, okay. Because the 12th, as I understand it, is Heather's first day.
Right.
So I'm a little sensitive
Oh
to,
my gosh.
hello, welcome was planned. But as I understand it, Stacy, July feels like, you know, we've got some conflicts there, so it doesn't sound like we're gonna be able to go in.
Oh yeah. Well, and she wasn't gonna be, but she'll be here. Never mind. She'll be here in July. We could look at July. The week. So we could do an abbreviated we could do an abbreviated board meeting in July because it's not going to be too much. It's just going to be the SAC update after we have that to dive into, and then we could.
You may have, just so you know, but I think as long as we get them out to you, not we, but as long as administration and Heather get them out to you early, there will be July is always that heavy month for just approving all sorts of, you know, policies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we get them out there to you easily so it could be part of a consent agenda like OCPS does.
Now you're still here on the 20th of July, right, Kristen? You haven't left yet? Have you left yet?
On the 20th of July, I think that's the day I leave.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the day I leave. So I mean, I can do anytime before July 20th, but when are you back?
I'm gone the 14th through the 19th.
Ouch.
That's a long one.
What about the 10th, 11th, or 12th? Oh wait, I'm July.
The 4th through the 19th. I'm gone like the whole month. And then you're gone from the 20th through the what? Kristen, when are you back?
I'm not back until right before school starts, but I mean, unless you want to do something, well, see, we already have the August 8th board meeting. But then again, we usually move that board meeting because we move it back because it's the week that school starts.
Yeah, so we could put maybe the first week of August. Do we want to put some working session in there, or is that?
I like August.
I could do that.
The first week
You
of
mean
August?
the 7th?
No, like the week of the first, second, third.
Okay, that's why I'm not back yet. But
Like
I mean,
all the administration just went stony
Yeah.
faced on you. They were just
Yeah.
like,
Thank you. I was
Yeah.
just saying that's a very busy week for us.
Yeah. Okay.
That pre-planning.
Yeah. The school starts when the next year? Is it the 8th?
10th, August 10th,
On a Thursday?
Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Finally.
Mm. Wow, we are really struggling for this time period.
and when is Heather back from her vacation? Like, is she?
She's
I mean, if we
back
did
on July. She's back July
4th,
First or-
5th,
Oh,
5th. Yeah, she'll be back early, so she'll be back the whole month of July. She'll be here pretty much, just except for that first week.
And so-
That's because they all shut down that week. You guys are all on vacation that week, right, Kathy? Like,
Right.
don't you guys take that whole week? So like that week
Yeah.
we need to protect their time.
So July 10th is available, but you're out, right? July
Yeah.
10th. Yeah.
I mean, you guys can move forward without me.
so basically out of myself, Kristen and Stacy were out for 6 weeks.
Yes.
that's why I thought, oh boy.
And I would volunteer to do like a Zoom session, but I don't think that's a good idea with my situation.
So I'm going to take this back to what if we did the weeknight of the 14th? We did June 13th and June 14th, and we
Okay.
see. Let's kind of just get ourselves a little bit organized, and then
Yeah.
we maximize the July 11th meeting because but you're not there, Stacy, right? And we have to move that meeting. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We'd have to move it till the follow, like the 25th, the week of the 25th or 26th. That Tuesday or Wednesday.
So.
But Kristen's out, so one of us is going to be out.
That's okay, but Stacy,
You probably want your note taker, actually, to be honest.
No, but Stacy, you need to be there if it's the SAC meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for July, you recommend which day for the SAC meeting?
The 25th.
Okay, let's pencil that for a second.
I feel like that would actually work well too, because you have it the 25th, and then it makes it easier to push your August meeting back, so we're not right there in that first week of school.
Right.
And potentially even cancel the August meeting and go into September.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
Can we have a Zoom for the 25th?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We will be Zoom.
I will be in Canada, but I can join Zoom.
Okay, so possible cancel of the August meeting.
I think at a minimum, we would push it back a week, right? Because we
we always do it like towards the end of the month on that one.
I think I'll go ahead and just readjust that one by 1 week because we always.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
Because where it sits right now, it would be falling on August 8th, which would be 2 days before school starts. So, and even back 1 week, it's only 5 days after school starts. So, yeah, at least push it back a week, but it might just be kind of penciled in that it might get dropped.
Let's do the 13th meeting via Zoom again, and then the 14th meeting, the June 14th, that working session, we can try to do that in person. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yes. I apologize. I have to jump off. I'll see you guys later.
Bye, guys. Bye, AJ.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, AJ.
Bye, AJ. All right, so 13 Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And
that
then
way we're not
14th, we would be in person, and we're calling this a working summer planning type session.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Heather will be there, and maybe we'll get food.
Yeah, we definitely will need food. It's a non-negotiable.
Do we want to pencil a start time for that? And then I think we're good. So
We could. Can you guys do 5:30? Is that too early to be at school?
This is June 14th.
Yeah, June 14th.
Yep, June 14th.
Which should be okay.
A Wednesday, June 14th, 2 weeks from today. 5:30 going once.
Do it.
5:30.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have our regular June meeting plan. We have a working session. We have the SAC July meeting, which is moving to July 25th. And then we are going to bump off our August meeting by 1 week to the 15th, or possible cancel depending on how we feel. How's that?
I want to see
Sound
that
like
in
we
the
have a
notes.
summer plan. Okay. Sounds like a plan. We'll go with that for the moment. So thank you all for this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.